The great council hall of the galaxy was full. Hundreds of alien species sat on their shining seats, their eyes glowing, their voices whispering. They waited to hear the words of the old ambassador who stood in the center. His skin was pale blue, his eyes heavy with memory, his voice low but strong. He had seen things the others had not. He had lived through a war they did not want to believe. He raised his hand for silence, and the hall grew still. "Do not attack the humans," he said, each word slow, carrying weight like stones dropped into deep water. "If you fight them, you will regret it. They will not stop. They will not surrender. They will fight until the end." A low laugh spread across the chamber. Some alien leaders smirked. Some whispered to their neighbors. Some tapped their claws on the metal railings as if bored. To them, the humans were new, a small species from a small planet. Fragile bodies, short lives, no empire, no great technology, just flesh and bone and will. What danger could they be? One of the reptilian generals stood, his scales flashing red, his tail striking the ground. "You expect us to fear them," he said. "When their fleets are nothing, when their numbers are small, when their world is young, they are soft creatures. They bleed, they die, they break. Why should the council tremble at such beings?" The ambassador did not raise his voice, but the quiet that followed made his words sharp as blades. Because they do not fear death, because they do not understand surrender. Because when every other species would fall back, they move forward. When every other soldier would throw down his weapon, they raise theirs higher. I tell you this because I have seen it with my own eyes. He paused, his memory burning like fire. He remembered the first time, the first battle. He remembered the silence of space filled with fire. The human ships surrounded, broken, burning, yet still they fought. He remembered voices on the comms, voices not begging, not crying, but steady, promising to fight until their last breath. The council stirred again, but this time less laughter. A shadow crept through the room. The alien leaders looked at each other, uncertain, but pride and arrogance still filled their hearts. They did not believe. They did not want to believe. Another voice rose, sharp and cold, from a tall figure with silver skin and black eyes. "Your story is old, fear, nothing more. You speak like an elder who sees shadows where there are none. We will crush them, and the galaxy will not even remember their name." The ambassador turned, his gaze heavy on the silver-skinned figure. "You are wrong," he said, "for the galaxy will remember their name. Not because of strength, not because of power, but because they are the only ones who will stand when all hope is gone. They are the only ones who will fight with nothing left but spirit, and spirit is stronger than any weapon." The silence that followed was longer, deeper. Some in the hall shifted uneasily. They had never heard such words spoken with such certainty. The ambassador's voice trembled, not with weakness but with truth. He raised his hand again, his fingers shaking slightly. "You think I exaggerate, but hear me. The first warship I saw from Earth was no match for our fleets. It was small, its armor thin, its weapons simple, yet it fought 10 against 1, and when its guns were gone, it rammed itself into a battleship 3 times its size. Tearing both apart, the humans on board died, yes, but not before they took their enemy with them. No other species does this. No other mind accepts sacrifice so willingly. That is what makes them dangerous." The reptilian general frowned. His tail stilled. The silver-skinned figure no longer smiled, and many others felt the unease grow. The ambassador pressed on. "They fight for each other. Not for empire, not for glory, but for each other. When one falls, another rises. When a city burns, survivors form a shield around it. They are bound not by fear but by something deeper, something you cannot break. You may kill a human, but you cannot kill their spirit, and when that spirit burns, it spreads like fire through all of them." A cold wind of silence swept through the chamber. The great council of the galaxy, leaders who had ruled for centuries, leaders who thought themselves unshakable, now sat uneasy. Some shifted, some whispered again, but no laughter this time. The ambassador looked at them all, his voice a whisper now, but still sharp. "So laugh if you wish, dismiss my warning if you choose. But remember this, when the war begins, when you send your fleets, when you see the flames of your own ships burning in the dark, you will remember these words. You will remember that I told you, never attack the humans, for they will fight until the end." And with that the hall trembled, not from sound, not from weapon, but from the weight of silence. Every leader stared at the old ambassador, every thought filled with doubt, with fear, with the first seed of belief that maybe, just maybe, the humans were not prey but hunters waiting for war. The first meeting between humans and the galactic empire was not written in stars of peace. It began with curiosity. and like many tales of curiosity, it turned into fire. The humans had just stepped beyond their solar system. Their ships were young, their engines loud, their weapons crude by galactic measure. But their hearts were restless. They reached for the dark like children reaching for fire. And in that darkness they were found. The Empire's scouts were the first to see them, sleek silver vessels gliding through silent space. Their sensors locked on the human fleet. To them the humans looked fragile. Their ships carried scars of testing, their hulls dented from meteor storms, their movements clumsy. Yet within that clumsiness burned a sharp edge. The scouts reported back, their voices almost mocking. They are nothing special. Their engines choke, their weapons spark. They are not worth fear. So the council sent emissaries, not of kindness but of command. Towering figures of alien design stood before the human delegation on a neutral station, their voices deep, their words heavy. You will kneel before the Empire. Your worlds will pay tribute, your people will obey. For this is the law of the galaxy. The message was not invitation but demand. The humans listened, their faces calm, their hands steady. Their leader, a woman with gray hair and steady eyes, answered with simple words. We will not kneel, she said. No anger, no arrogance, only truth. Her words echoed across the chamber. Soft yet unbroken, the alien emissaries laughed, their voices like thunder rolling through the hall. One of them leaned forward, his teeth sharp, his gaze sharp. You misunderstand your place, small one. You have one world. We have thousands. You have metal scraps, we have fleets of fire. You have no chance. But the human leader did not flinch. She only said, then you will learn who we are. The tension grew. Whispers spread across the stars. The humans had refused. Something no young race had done before. Most new species bent their heads, paid tribute, became servants. But the humans had drawn a line with only words. And words soon turned to actions. The first clash was not planned. It happened near a lonely mining colony on the edge of human space. Alien patrol ships entered, demanding surrender of the outpost. The humans answered with silence and then with fire. Crude missiles shot into the void, their trails bright against the black. Alien shields broke easily against such primitive weapons, and in moments the patrol burned. News of the skirmish reached the council. Anger erupted, voices shouted. Claws slammed against tables, the decision was made quickly. Teach them a lesson, the commander said. Break them before they grow bold. Fleets of shining warships were sent, their weapons humming, their crews smiling with arrogance. They expected to face prey, not predators. On Earth, the alarm sounded, soldiers rushed. Engineers worked without sleep. Families held each other, knowing what was to come. The human fleets were small, their captains young, their technology behind by centuries. But their resolve was steel. Commanders spoke across the channels, their words short, their tone steady. Hold the line. When the alien fleets arrived, the humans did not hide. Their ships spread like teeth around their colonies, not running, not begging, but waiting. The first battle began with light. Streaks of plasma and trails of missiles cut through the black. Human ships broke fast. Shields shattered, hulls cracked, but still they fought, one after another, refusing to fall back. The aliens laughed at first, mocking the resistance. See how they crumble, they said. But their laughter faded when the humans kept coming. When a ship burning at the edges turned and rammed into a cruiser, exploding in a fire that consumed both. When outnumbered frigates circled like wolves and bit at larger prey, even as their own hulls broke apart. In the midst of the chaos, a single transmission was caught by alien ears. It came from a human captain whose ship was dying. Fire spreading, systems gone, yet his voice was calm. We fight, we endure, we stand, he said. Before his ship exploded into light, the alien commanders grew uneasy. Their reports filled with confusion. They do not retreat, one wrote. They do not surrender. They fight beyond reason, beyond logic. It is as if they welcome death, as if they fear nothing. The Empire had planned to crush a small people, to show strength with little effort, but instead they had found something else, a spark that refused to be put out, a fire that burned brighter with every loss. And as the smoke of the first great clash drifted into the silence of space, whispers spread from system to system, whispers that carried fear, whispers that carried respect, whispers of a new race that would not kneel, a race that would rather burn than bow. The ambassador, far away in the council chambers, closed his eyes as he remembered those first days, and he knew, though others still doubted, that the galaxy had awoken something dangerous, something relentless, something that would change every star. The war did not come with warning, it came with fire. It came with steel and shadows across the stars. The first battle had been called a skirmish, a lesson, but after the mining colony burned and the human ships fought until nothing was left but wreckage, the Empire understood. This was no lesson. This was war. Fleets gathered, banners raised, weapons primed. The galaxy thought it would be quick, but they were wrong. The humans knew they could not match the Empire in numbers. Their fleets were small, their weapons old, but they had something else. Something the Empire did not count. A will that could not be broken. Commanders sat in dark rooms with maps of the stars glowing before them. Their eyes red from sleepless nights, their voices steady. We cannot win by strength, we win by spirit. By making them bleed until they fear us, they whispered. The spark of war began near Proxima Station, a lonely outpost at the edge of human territory. The Empire sent a fleet of 20 ships, armored and armed, their commanders confident. They expected surrender. They expected silence. But instead they found 5 human warships waiting, small, scarred, and outnumbered. The battle began before the sun rose on the station's colony. The alien ships unleashed their fire. Beams cut through the dark. Shields flashed, explosions lit the void. The human ships shook under the storm, their hulls breaking, alarms screaming, yet they did not retreat. One ship, the Resolute, moved forward, its weapons firing until the barrels melted. Then, when nothing remained, the captain gave the last order, "Ram them!" And the ship, burning and broken, hurled itself into the enemy cruiser. The explosion tore both vessels apart. The aliens watched in silence, their laughter gone, their arrogance cracking. They had never seen such madness, never seen such courage. The humans did not act like prey. They acted like predators cornered, ready to bite even in death, and each death lit another fire. The station survived that night, not because humans had greater strength, but because the Empire retreated in confusion, their commanders unsettled, their soldiers whispering about the burning ship, about the humans who chose destruction rather than surrender. Across the galaxy the news spread, not through official reports but through fear. The humans fight like demons, some said. They do not care for their lives, others whispered. The spark of war was no longer a secret. It was a flame carried from system to system. The Empire doubled its efforts, fleets of hundreds now moved, their ships blotting out stars. Their admirals swore to crush Earth and all who lived there, but the humans were ready. They did not hide, they did not beg. Their fleets scattered, striking like wolves, vanishing into dark, appearing where least expected, hitting supply lines, burning fuel stations, tearing communication hubs apart, always outnumbered, always outgunned, but never outwilled. The aliens grew angry. Their reports filled with shame. How do they fight so long? How do they refuse to die quietly? Commanders asked. No answer came, only silence. Only fear. On Earth the people did not rest. Factories thundered day and night. Engineers built weapons from scraps. Children carried supplies. Families sent sons and daughters into the stars knowing they might never return. But none complained. None turned away. They all shared the same fire, the same vow. In one battle near Titan's shadow, a fleet of human frigates faced triple their number. They fought until their ships were nothing but drifting husks. Yet even then, escape pods turned into weapons, pilots steering them into enemy hulls, explosions blooming like stars. Alien commanders watched in disbelief, their voices shaken. They fight even in death, they whispered. The Empire began to see the truth. The spark of war was not just fire in the void, it was fire in the human heart. A fire that spread, that grew, that refused to die. Each human death was not an ending but a beginning. Each loss another reason to rise in the council halls. The ambassador's warning echoed, "They will not surrender. They will fight until the end." Some began to believe. Others still mocked. But the reports could not be silenced. Every fleet sent against them came back wounded. Every battle left scars, and every scar reminded the galaxy of the humans. The spark of war grew brighter, spreading beyond battlefields, spreading into fear, into respect, into legend. Alien soldiers spoke in hushed voices. If you face a human, do not expect mercy. Do not expect retreat, they said. Captains warned their crews, never underestimate them. They fight with something unseen, something stronger than steel. And far above, in the silent dark, human fleets gathered again, their ships patched and scarred, their weapons ready, their captains unbowed. They knew the war had only begun. They knew the Empire would return with greater force, but they also knew something the Empire did not. They knew that even in darkness, even in loss, Their fire would never die, the spark had been lit, and nothing in the galaxy could put it out. The Empire thought they understood the humans after the first waves of war. They believed humans were reckless, wasteful, willing to throw their lives away like dust in the wind. To alien commanders this was foolishness, but to human commanders it was strategy. And beneath the chaos, the Empire had missed something important. The humans had a secret, a weapon hidden not in their ships, not in their guns, but in themselves. The great fleets of the Empire were massive, ships the size of cities drifting through the stars, their armor thick, their weapons ancient and perfected. No one had ever stood against them for long. But in the middle of the war, reports began to arrive that unsettled the admirals. Battles that should have been easy were dragging on. Colonies that should have fallen in hours held out for weeks every time the humans should have broken. They found a way to fight back. It was not technology alone. Though the humans were clever, building weapons from scraps, turning satellites into mines, turning transport freighters into bomb carriers. It was not only numbers, for they were always fewer. The secret was deeper, something invisible, something the Empire could not understand. At the Battle of Vega's rings, an entire human fleet was cornered. Their engines failing, their supplies gone. They had no chance of escape. The alien commander offered them mercy. "Surrender your ships, surrender your lives, and we will let your people live," he said over the comms. The answer came back in a calm voice. The human captain speaking slowly. "We do not surrender, not today, not ever." Then the human fleet charged, every ship moving forward into certain death, their weapons firing until they melted, their hulls glowing red as they rammed into alien cruisers. Even as the humans were destroyed, the alien fleet limped away with half its numbers gone. The secret was sacrifice, but not blind sacrifice. It was sacrifice for each other, for something greater than themselves. Humans did not fight for empire. They did not fight for riches. They fought for the person standing next to them. They fought for their children waiting on distant colonies. They fought for Earth, their home, small and fragile in the endless dark. And this gave them strength the Empire could not break. Again and again the pattern repeated. A human ship cornered did not surrender. It fought harder. A colony under siege did not yield. It built weapons from the ruins. Even prisoners, chained and starved, would find ways to fight. One alien report described the horror. They sang as they died, they looked at us without fear. And even in their final breath they tried to take us with them. The Empire's soldiers began to fear assignments near human territory. Whispers spread in the barracks. The humans are cursed, they do not fear pain. They do not fear death, some said. Better to face 1,000 machines than one human with a blade, others muttered. The fear was growing, invisible but sharp, cutting deeper than any weapon. Human scientists also worked in silence. Their minds racing, they studied the enemy, learned their weaknesses, built new weapons faster than the Empire expected. Rail cannons forged in underground labs, stealth ships built from scavenged alien wrecks, even biological tricks. Soldiers injected with treatments that kept them fighting long after wounds should have killed them. Alien commanders called it madness. Humans called it survival. In one battle above the fractured moon of Korath, a single human destroyer faced 3 alien cruisers, outgunned, outmatched. The human ship should have been torn apart, yet it moved with impossible speed. Its captain weaving between fire, its gunners striking weak points with perfect aim. When at last the ship fell, it exploded in a way that consumed all 3 cruisers, and the survivors whispered of human tactics, of human stubbornness, of human courage. The secret weapon was not a single ship, not a single gun, it was the human heart, the refusal to bend, the refusal to yield. And once the Empire realized this, fear truly began to spread. Because no empire, no matter how strong, can crush a spirit that does not break back on Earth. Families built memorials for the fallen, but they also built new ships, faster, stronger, forged in fire and blood. Each loss was turned into fuel, each death into determination. A child who lost a father became a pilot. A mother who lost a son became an engineer. The grief did not weaken them, grief sharpened them, and the Empire began to understand too late that they were fighting something far greater than metal and flesh. The ambassador in the council chamber spoke again, his voice quiet but filled with certainty. "You see their weakness. I see their strength, you count their losses. I count their resolve, you will never break them, for they are bound together by something no fleet can destroy." His words echoed like thunder in silence. The Empire had weapons, the Empire had numbers, But the humans had their secret, and in the darkness of war, that secret burned brighter than any star. The war reached a place where even the stars seemed tired. Countless battles had painted the void with wreckage, fleets shattered, colonies scarred, but the humans did not fall, and the Empire began to realize that sheer numbers were not enough. Something had to change. The galaxy was waiting for a single moment, a single battle that would decide if the humans were broken or if they would rise even stronger. That moment came at the edge of a dying star. The system was called Eridani Prime. Its sun swollen and red, its light heavy and dim. Human colonies clung to its outer planets, fragile worlds with thin air and weaker gravity. The Empire chose this system for their strike, believing they could burn it away and send a message. Their fleet was enormous, more than 200 warships, cruisers with armor thicker than mountains, dreadnoughts that carried weapons able to split moons. They came like a storm, confident, ready to end the war. The humans gathered what they could. Barely 50 ships stood against the Empire's might. Patched destroyers, scarred frigates, a handful of carriers with fewer fighters than they needed. The captains knew the odds. The soldiers knew their chances. Yet not one ship fled. Not one pilot refused. Because Earth had sent them here, and Earth needed them to hold. At the heart of the human fleet was something new, a warship unlike any before. Its name was the Horizon, longer than any carrier, darker than the void around it. Built in secret shipyards carved into asteroids, its hull layered with experimental alloys, its weapons strange, untested. It was the result of sacrifice, thousands of hands working in silence, thousands of lives lost buying time for it to be built. This was humanity's gamble, their turning point. When the Empire's fleet arrived, their admiral laughed at the sight of the humans waiting. 50 against 200, this will not be war. This will be slaughter, he said, his voice echoing across the comms. But the humans answered with silence. Only engines burning, only ships moving into formation. Ready to die but not ready to surrender. The battle began with fire. Plasma beams slicing through the dark. Missiles streaking like falling stars. Human ships broke quickly, shields collapsing, armor cracking. Yet each time one fell, it bought time for the others. Each sacrifice carving moments, and in those moments the Horizon moved. Its engines humming with a strange power. Its weapons charging with light never seen before. The Empire did not understand at first. They thought it was just another human carrier. But when its first shot fired, they realized the truth. A beam of pure energy tore through space, not stopping at shields, not stopping at armor. Slicing through 3 cruisers in a single strike, ships that had stood for centuries cracked open like shells. The alien admiral's laughter died in his throat. Fear rippled through the Empire's fleet, their crews staring at the wreckage, drifting in silence. Never had they seen a weapon so sharp, so merciless, yet the humans did not celebrate. They simply fired again and again, each blast from the Horizon tearing apart ships like paper in fire. The Empire rallied, their numbers pressing forward. Dozens of ships surrounding the Horizon, but the humans knew the plan. Their smaller ships moved in, weaving between giants, taking hits, ramming into cruisers, breaking apart dreadnought shields, each sacrifice giving the Horizon more space, more time to fire. One human destroyer, the Vanguard, crippled and burning, slammed itself into the side of an enemy battleship. The explosion shook the fleet, and in that moment the Horizon fired again, cutting the battleship in half. The pieces drifting into the dying star. The tide was turning slowly, painfully. The Empire still had numbers, but the humans had fire, the kind of fire that cannot be measured in fleets. The kind of fire that spreads even in death. The alien admiral shouted for his ships to press harder, but doubt was growing. Voices in his comms spoke in fear. They should be broken, yet they fight stronger, they should be gone. Yet they are winning. The battle raged for hours, the dying star burning red behind them. Human ships falling one by one, but every death mattered. Every wreck drifted in the path of the Empire, slowing them, blocking them, until at last the Horizon stood at the center of a field of fire, its weapons glowing, its captain speaking calmly. We hold here. We end this. With a final surge, the humans unleashed everything. Missiles, beams, rams, fighters diving like arrows. And the Horizon fired its great cannon once more. The beam tore through the Empire's flagship, splitting it apart in silence. The alien admiral's voice cut off mid-order. The wreckage falling into the gravity of the dying star, the Empire retreated. Not in order, but in chaos. Their mighty fleet broken by fewer than 50 human ships. The news spread across the galaxy like a storm. The humans had stood against impossible odds, and not only survived, but won. The spark of war had turned into a firestorm. In the silence after the battle, the surviving humans drifted among wreckage, counting their dead, half their fleet gone, thousands of lives lost, yet their spirits did not break, because for the first time they had not only endured, they had turned the tide. They had shown the galaxy that they could win, and in distant halls of the council the ambassador's voice rang true once more. Now you see, now you understand, never attack the humans, for they will fight until the end, and sometimes they will even win. The victory at Eridani Prime burned bright across the galaxy. News traveled faster than light, carrying fear, carrying respect, carrying the name of humans into places where no one had spoken of them before. But victory never comes without a price, and the humans paid that price in blood and fire. The cost of war was heavy, heavier than any weapon, heavier than any ship. Half of the fleet that had fought at Eridani was gone, their wrecks drifting near the dying star, their crews silent, their names whispered by survivors. On Earth, memorial walls grew longer. Families gathered in quiet streets with candles. Their faces hard, their voices steady. They did not cry in weakness, they cried in defiance. For every name carved into stone became fuel for the fire that drove them forward. The Empire too counted its dead, entire cruisers gone, dreadnoughts lost, admirals shamed. Their people whispered that the humans were cursed, that to fight them was to fight shadows that never broke. Soldiers refused postings near human space. Officers spoke of nightmares, of burning ships ramming through steel. The fear was spreading like a sickness, but still the Empire pressed on. For pride is a heavy chain, and the Empire could not accept defeat. For the humans, every victory was paid with sacrifice, every colony defended meant another destroyed. Every fleet that won returned smaller than before. And yet they did not bend. On Mars, factories thundered night and day, young workers forging weapons faster than they could eat. In the shipyards of Luna, women and men built new warships with their bare hands, singing songs to keep their strength. On Earth, children grew without fathers, mothers buried sons, lovers said goodbye with the knowledge they might never meet again. Still, the fire did not dim. The cost of war was not only blood, it was time, it was hope. It was the silence between battles when survivors looked at each other and wondered how much more they could give. In the cold barracks of orbital stations, soldiers sat with eyes hollow, staring into the dark, whispering the names of friends who had fallen. Yet when the alarm sounded, they rose. They picked up their weapons, they walked back into the fire. In one battle near the shattered moon of Halor, the humans fought for 3 days. Their fleet dwindling, their fuel gone, yet they held. When the final ship fell, its captain transmitted a message across all frequencies. A voice broken but strong, "Remember us, fight for us. Do not let this be the end." The message spread like flame. Soldiers across the stars heard it, and they swore to fight harder, but the Empire did not stop. They grew desperate, sending larger fleets, burning colonies in rage. Each world became a grave, each battle a scar. The humans were bleeding, and the galaxy wondered how long they could endure. Inside the council chambers, the ambassador spoke again, his voice heavy. "You see their losses. You see their grief, yet still they rise. They turn pain into strength. They turn death into fuel. You do not understand them, but I do. They will not stop. Not until the last of them is gone." Some of the leaders shifted uncomfortably, their arrogance cracking, for they too had seen the reports on Earth. The skies were filled with the smoke of factories, the seas filled with ships carrying weapons to launch pads. Families said goodbye at stations where warships rose into the black. Each farewell was a wound, yet each wound was endured. Humans knew war was eating them alive, but they also knew surrender would destroy them even more. The cost of war shaped them into something new, something harder, something sharper. Pilots learned to fight with broken ships. Engineers learned to rebuild with nothing. Children grew into soldiers with eyes too old for their age. Humanity was no longer innocent, they were forged in pain. And the galaxy began to see it. Alien captains wrote in their logs, "We thought them weak, we thought them soft. But they fight like storms, they rise from ashes, they are not like us. They are something else." Fear turned into caution. Caution turned into respect, and respect turned into legend. Still, the humans carried their grief. Still they counted the names of the dead. Still they whispered promises to fallen friends. The cost was crushing, but they bore it with unbroken backs. For in every grave they saw not an ending but a reason. In the quiet after battles, when ships drifted in silence, when soldiers sat in dim light, when the galaxy held its breath, the truth of humanity shone brightest. They were not fighting for power, they were not fighting for empire, They were fighting for survival, for each other, for the right to exist. And so the cost of war grew. But so too did the legend of the humans. The Empire had believed pain would break them, but pain only made them stronger. Fear only made them bolder. Loss only made them more dangerous. And the galaxy began to whisper louder. Never attack the humans, for they will fight until the end. The war had stretched into years. The galaxy was scarred, the Empire was tired, and humanity was bleeding. Yet neither side stopped, neither side bent. Every battle had brought fire, every victory had cost blood. But now both sides gathered for what would be the last great clash, the final stand that would decide everything. The Empire called it Operation Silence. The humans called it simply survival. The place chosen was Sol itself, the home of humanity. Earth shining blue and green, fragile and small. The Empire brought a fleet so vast it blocked the stars. Dreadnoughts like mountains, carriers swarming with fighters, cruisers armed with enough firepower to shatter continents, 200 ships advancing. Their admirals swearing this would be the end. We burn Earth, we burn their spirit, we end this war forever, he declared. The humans had little left, barely 70 warships, many scarred from older battles, patched with scraps, engines wheezing, but they stood ready, orbiting Earth like a wall of steel and fire. The horizon at their center, its black hull gleaming with scars, its cannon humming with energy, its crew silent but unbroken, their captain whispering, "This is our home, we hold here, we hold no matter what." When the Empire arrived, the void trembled, weapons charged, ships shifted into formation, and then the sky exploded. Beams of plasma, trails of missiles, bursts of fire brighter than the sun. The first wave of human ships broke under the storm, yet they did not fall back. They pushed forward, every ship firing until its guns melted, every pilot fighting until their cockpit burned. Alien fighters swarmed, but human pilots met them head-on, weaving between fire, sacrificing themselves to shield the carriers. One squadron of fighters dove into the heart of an enemy cruiser, their ships exploding together, tearing the cruiser apart. The Empire called it madness. The humans called it duty. In the heart of the battle, the horizon fired, its cannon splitting a dreadnought in two, the shockwave shaking the Empire's line. Cheers erupted across human comms, but the joy was short, for the Empire pressed harder, their numbers overwhelming. One human destroyer after another exploded, each loss tearing a hole in the line. Still they fought. The Valiant ramming into a cruiser, the Defiance shielding Earth with its broken hull until it split apart, the Endeavor detonating its core to drag 3 enemy ships into the void. Sacrifice after sacrifice, each one carving seconds, each one buying breath. From Earth, civilians watched the sky turn into fire. Families gathered in shelters, children whispered prayers, old voices told stories of resistance. They listened to the comms, hearing the voices of soldiers who might never return. But none begged for peace, none begged for surrender. They only whispered, "Hold, hold, hold." The Empire's admiral laughed when half the human fleet was gone. "They are finished," he said. "Soon their world will burn." But his laughter died when the humans surged again, burning wrecks turning into weapons. Escape pods turned into bombs, crippled ships igniting their engines one last time to ram into dreadnoughts. The Empire saw not an army but a storm that refused to die. The turning moment came when the Empire's flagship moved into range of Earth, its weapons glowing, ready to fire. But the horizon intercepted, its cannon blazing, its engines screaming, its crew shouting. The human warship stood alone against 5 enemy cruisers and the flagship, fire ripping through its hull, alarms blaring, yet it held. It fought, its captain speaking over open channels. For Earth, for humanity, we stand. One by one the enemy ships around it fell, destroyed not by numbers but by fury. But the horizon too was breaking, its armor split, its decks burning, its cannon charging one final time. The crew knew it would be the end, yet no one fled, no one hesitated. They embraced the moment, and when the cannon fired, it tore through the Empire's flagship, splitting it apart in silence. The explosion lit the void brighter than a sun, the Empire's admiral gone, his fleet in chaos, their formation broken, the humans pressed with what little remained. The Guardian, the Liberty, the Resolve, all scarred but still alive, they pushed the Empire back, driving them from Earth's orbit, turning the final stand into survival. Silence followed, the sky filled with drifting wrecks. Earth still whole beneath the fire. The humans had lost nearly everything. Their fleets shattered, their people broken. Yet they had stood. They had endured. They had shown the galaxy that even against impossible odds, humanity did not kneel across the stars. Whispers spread louder than ever. Do not fight them, do not test them, for they will fight until the end. The legend was sealed. The cost was unbearable. But the fire of humanity burned brighter than before, and so the final stand became the moment the galaxy remembered, not because humanity was strongest, not because they had the greatest ships, but because they proved that even at the edge of extinction, even at the doors of death, they would never bow, they would never break, they would fight, always until the end. The battle above Earth ended. The wreckage of ships drifted like ghosts across the black sky. The Empire's fleet was gone, broken and scattered, and humanity stood battered but alive, their cities still shining beneath the stars, their people still breathing, their spirit unbroken. The war was not won in the way the Empire had imagined, but it was ended in a way no one could deny. In the days that followed, silence spread through the galaxy. Alien worlds listened. Alien councils whispered. Soldiers who had once laughed at the thought of humans now stared at reports with fear in their eyes. They saw how few ships the humans had left, how many had died. Yet they also saw that in death, the humans did not surrender. In loss, they did not bend. They fought until nothing remained, and even then their fire reached beyond the grave. The ambassador who had once warned the council stood again before them, his old eyes filled with sorrow and certainty. "I told you," he said softly, his voice echoing. "I told you never to attack them, now you understand. Now you have seen with your own eyes humanity is not like us. They will fight when reason says run. They will rise when logic says fall. They will endure what no other species can endure." And none laughed this time. None mocked. The chamber was silent. Across the Empire, soldiers spoke in hushed voices of the final stand. They told of ships that rammed cruisers, of captains who chose death instead of surrender, of the horizon that fired its last cannon shot even as it burned to pieces. Their stories spread like fire through the stars, carried not by commanders but by survivors, and soon every corner of the galaxy knew on Earth the cost of victory was heavy. Cities mourned, families wept, walls of names grew taller than towers, yet the people did not despair. They built, they repaired, they planted new gardens where craters lay. They forged new ships in silence, stronger than before, and they told their children, "Remember, never forget, we fight, we endure, we survive." Humanity's grief did not make them weaker. It made them eternal. Alien historians recorded the war, but their words could not capture it fully. They wrote of fleets and weapons, of victories and defeats, but what haunted them most were the things they could not explain. The moments when humans should have fled but stayed, the moments when humans should have broken but fought harder. They wrote, "They are not the strongest, not the most advanced, but they are the most dangerous, for they cannot be broken." Legends began to form, told in markets and barracks and council halls. Some said humans had no fear of death. Others said they carried a fire in their blood that burned brighter in battle. Others whispered that Earth itself gave them strength, that their small, fragile world had taught them how to endure. None knew the truth, all feared the result. Even the Empire, proud and vast, began to avoid human space. Their fleets pulled back, their colonies kept distance, not from weakness but from understanding. They had seen the price of testing humanity, and they would not pay it again. For the humans themselves, life went on scarred but alive. The survivors of the horizon were remembered as heroes, their names carved into stone, their sacrifice sung in songs that spread across colonies. Every child grew up hearing the words. They fought until the end. Every soldier carried it as a promise. Every leader spoke it as a vow. The legend of humanity was not written in victory alone. It was written in loss, in pain, in sacrifice, in the refusal to yield. And that legend reached further than any fleet. It reached into the hearts of those who once despised them, those who once laughed at them. Even enemies began to whisper, "Do not attack Earth, do not provoke the humans, for they will fight until the last breath, and even then, their spirit will rise again." The galaxy changed after that, slowly, quietly. Some species sought alliances, others offered trade. A few dared to send ambassadors to Earth, not to demand kneeling but to speak as equals, for they now understood that humanity could never be ruled, only respected, only feared. And in the quiet of the night, when Earth's skies were clear, people looked up at the stars. Not with fear, not with despair, but with pride. They knew the war had scarred them, but it had also shown them their truth. A truth carried in every story, every song, every whisper. That truth was simple, unshakable and eternal. Never attack the humans. Never mistake their kindness for weakness. Never mistake their small world for fragility. For when the fires rise, when the dark closes in, when all hope is gone, humanity will stand. They will rise, they will fight until the end.